What's good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with NIO, Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening to the overall market as far as important data coming out, not to mention new improvements that are coming out when it comes to the economic calendar. But before I break the devil's information, before I talk about why NIO absolutely exploded, being up over 11.65% for the day, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks from the Magnificent 7. The offer ends in just a couple of weeks, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, NIO is up like crazy, up over 11% for the day because we got some bullish data. And I called out that this data is coming out. I also mentioned to everyone that the market is going to respond to Jerome Powell's speech, but NIO continued to hold up because of some good pieces of news. So what's the good news for NIO? Well, this news came out right over here about their deliveries numbers. NIO has reported something absolutely insane. We're seeing 15,620 deliveries in April 2024. That's an increase of 134.6% year over year. That is once again consisting of 8.8 thousand of these premium smart electric EVs and over 6.8 thousand premium smart sedans, with a total of 495,000 deliveries for all time for the company. So very, very great news for them. Looking at the chart right here, you guys can see it. NIO delivered 15,620 vehicles in April. That's year over year, up about 134.6%, month over month, up 31%. And the chart looks like this. Let's just get this to straighten. So look at this massive growth compared to last year. And look at this massive growth compared to last month and the months prior. Nice growth from NIO. Very, very big push at the very, very last week of April. And that's awesome news to see as deliveries look pretty darn good. On top of this, we got some more good news, at least for NIO, as NIO is continuing to hold up. And we look very bullish now on the daily time frame and the 4 hours. So I do see more potential for this to go higher. But I first want to talk about another couple of other factors that could affect the markets. Tomorrow is going to be Thursday, May 2nd, 2024. 1 hour before the market opens, we have the exports and imports data and initial jobless claims that could cause some volatility. And then as time goes on, we just have a couple of bill auctions and very, very minor data, nothing too crazy, starting at 11:30 a.m. Besides that, I'm not seeing anything else too crazy for the remainder of the week in terms of data, but I do want to note that initial jobless claims is important. But however, it is important to note that we do have big earnings coming out for tomorrow and also other factors. Now, Jerome Powell gave a speech today and he said some very interesting things. He was a bit more on the dovish side. He basically ruled out stagflation, saying that it's not going to be the same as what he lived through. He also mentioned that the economy and economic data is still holding up quite well, but he's not as confident about it, there being like a very, very smooth path to getting inflation down in the short term. He did mention that for the short term, the projections for inflation are not the best. People are expecting inflation to go up, but that's going to be fine because the long term projections are still in play and there's been a lot of progress that's been made. So Powell, I would say that he was in the middle, a little bit more dovish. There were some things that he said that helped the market really push. He also mentioned that there's a lot of uncertainty about what the Fed is going to do next with the rate hikes. They have to continue to wait on a month-over-month basis. But he implied that there's going to be likely no cuts for the first half of this year. So we shouldn't be expecting any cuts for next month or anything like that. He did mention the last few inflationary reports were not the best, which is why he implied the short term for inflationary expectations were not the best. But he implied that the Fed has it under control and he's still confident that they're going to be fine for the longer term. So the market did like that in the beginning, but this was just part of a big manipulation move where the market kind of pumped and dumped. And Powell continued to say what he had to say. Now, let me say that he could be just trying to be overly optimistic. You know, the election is coming up very soon, and he could be, he's very, very much just. I'm just going to say that there's a lot of manipulation involved. So, you can't fully trust everything. You can't fully believe that there's going to be a soft landing. But with that said and done, I mean, we just have to go based off the data. Inflation is still at a high place relative to where the Fed wanted it to be for the short term. The Fed is saying that the long-term inflation expectations are under control and things are going to be fine, but the market ended up getting a very nuanced reaction. For the rate hike now, for June, there's a 90.1 or 90.9% chance we end up getting a June pause in the rate hikes. They're going to skip again. For July, it's the same thing, essentially 72% chance to keep rates the same. But for September, right now the market thinks there's about a 46% chance they keep the things the same. There's actually a higher probability we get some kind of cut. So that's what the market's thinking so far. We will see if that ends up being the case depending on inflationary data. Market is still fearful, but we'll see if this shifts. And then for more news involving the markets, we have big earnings tomorrow. So don't forget we have Apple's earnings coming out for tomorrow. This will have a big effect on the market for Friday. And then there's not really a whole lot else coming out. For the morning for tomorrow, we have Peloton and Moderna. And then after market close tomorrow, we have Apple and Coinbase, not to mention DraftKings. Today, there's not really anything that came out that was too significant except for like a few. Carvana made a big move. It actually is up about 30% as the used car retailer post record first quarter sales. So you can see right over here, the EPS was 23 cents. Revenue was $3.06 billion above expectations. So nice growth for them moving forward. And their company's gross profit per unit is also not too bad. So that's some good news for them. Nice pops so far. And I think that this is looking pretty good. Moving forward, I went over the sales for NIO. Nice increase in sales. They still have a neutral rating, but the price-price ratio is bouncing as NIO is gaining some strength. We tend to be more volatile at 11 a.m., 1 p.m., and also during the final hour of the day for NIO. Thursdays have a tendency of not being the strongest. It's only creating about 51% of the time, but NIO has a lot of momentum building, so it has more potential in my personal opinion. Volume was 147 million, well above the 47 million projection, so not bad for NIO. What do I see for the share price? We have this imbalance to fill all the way up here at 5.5. So I think that's tomorrow. NIO might end up continuing to push for that 5.5 target, then start to shuffle a little bit from there. The share price is up quite a bit. It's going to likely try to outperform the market because we got some very, very nice looking sales numbers and we ended up breaking past investor expectations. That's good for NIO. Good sales, good growth. They're up over 134% year over year and 31% month over month, which is great. I think that this could help the share price eventually hit this imbalance to at least 5.5, if not higher levels. So I do anticipate more upside is likely coming. However, for the broader markets, I'm actually a bigger bear in the markets. I think there's more downside coming in the future. However, for the short term, we might see a little bounce in SPY. There might be a small bounce coming again before we continue lower. And the reason I say that is because of the way we kind of moved. We got this nice little pump and drop like move today, where we kind of pumped thanks to Powell's speech and came back down. So look for a move back up. I think we're going to be grabbing some liquidity to at least 503, maybe a little bit higher. And then later on down the line, I do anticipate there's going to be a big move to the downside. I still hold that view. So watch and see if that ends up being the case. Now, I do see a possible head and shoulders like structure that could be could be developing, excuse me. So we could push a little higher to at least 503 before we continue lower. Maybe it goes even higher than that, so we'll just have to wait and see. But I anticipate SPY is going to rebound just a bit, and then we're going to be looking for more potential downside later. I think SPY will eventually also get to 493 again. We might pop first before we see the move to the downside, but that's what I'm saying is the most likely possibility, a pop and then drop. Same thing with the QQQ. We're trying to rebound in the after hours. We broke below this channel, but we are still showing weakness. I think that the QQQ also has a head and shoulders like structure. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually push back up towards 424 at least, just temporarily. Then we'll see if we get a rejection near 425 or if we break past this and then get the rejection. So I'll be watching this very, very carefully. But I just wanted to make it very clear that the QQQ is in a very, very critical place and we'll have to see how things move. I think that it's not in the best of places. I think that the market has more downside coming later on for the month, but we might get a little rebound first before we continue lower. So give the market a little bit more time. For Tesla, unfortunately, we didn't get the best of closes and we have this big gap to fill below. So as we're holding above our 20 EMA, I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla actually rebounds a bit tomorrow, retests the very mid 180s, like 184 or so, before we continue lower. And I think that eventually we will come down to fill this gap soon. It might push up first before we end up coming down. So watch for that very carefully. So look for a little retest of 184 before we end up making that move. For Nvidia, I'm seeing something similar. I think that Nvidia has potential to retest 844, then kind of continue to shuffle from here. The chart is on a bit of a downtrend right here, so it might pop first and eventually drop. Still not in the best of places, so we want to give this a little bit more time. And then for Apple stock, I'm seeing something very similar. Now, Apple's going to make a big move depending on its earnings. It might pop tomorrow again, retest 172.5 to 172, then come back down and shuffle. And then if earnings go out very, very well, this could be developing a cup and handle like structure. This could lead to more upside in Apple. Or if it fails, this could even sink. So we'll just have to wait and see. We'll see what happens with Apple's earnings, but I do see a potential cup and handle like structure that could be forming. So it looks a little bit more positive for earnings. So we'll give this some time and see if Apple gets a bounce or not. We'll see what this causes for the markets, guys. Thank you all so much for listening. As far as NIO goes, I think that NIO is going to outperform the market, has more upside coming, and we're going to be looking for 5.5 and eventually 5.66 tomorrow. I see upside potential for the stock, and that is my view for now. Thank you all for listening. Have an absolutely incredible rest of the day. We'll see how things go for tomorrow, and I can't wait for what the future holds. Thanks again, guys. NIO's looking pretty good so far. Let's hope for the best, and peace out.